I don't know if you and I have talked about this yet. I've talked about it with a couple of co-hosts. How much of the slowing and or the housing issue, the housing going down in price, do you think is reflected in the fact that we have a 3 million individual turnaround in the number of illegal immigrants coming into the country? So we have 2 million fewer illegal immigrants coming north, and we have 1 million illegal immigrants going south. So a 3 million turnaround in the increase, which has been maybe part of the reason the economy's been propped up in terms of sales, if nothing else. People have to eat, people have to find a place to rent. And I did an analysis on Grok, and Grok said, I did it on both Grok and Manus, and they said that's 500 to 700,000 households. Then that's with a high estimate, like 4 people, 5 people per household. So wouldn't that have an impact on housing? Wouldn't that have an impact on spending, especially on things like food falling off a ledge, utilities falling off the ledge? I mean, you got way less people putting demand on those utilities and on those food, on the food supply.
I don't know. Is there an impact? Sure. But when it's such a small percent of the population, I don't know if it makes, I don't think a less than 1% of people leaving the country makes a impact on a 99.5% of the entire economy spending, makes it into inflation numbers, CPI numbers. Like I don't think it does. I mean, yeah, I think that's a stretch. I think it can make a difference in certain communities, but not nationwide. And like with the housing right now, those aren't the people who are buying the houses. They're not the ones that are going out taking loans. Like they might have good.
But you have to look at the entire, real estate is something that I spend a lot of time. I've written 2 books on. When you're looking at figuring out how the housing market's moving or not, the rents do matter, because how many articles do you see, books do you see on should you rent or buy? So somebody's in the middle of that decision when they're going into buying a house. Should I continue to rent? Well, if my rent just dropped $300 a month and the mortgage is still, is still at the same level or even more because they haven't come down at all, now I've got a quandary as to which way I'm going to go. Well, now the house price comes down, so now maybe I can buy. So there's this give and take between rentals and sales, and it goes all the way down to the cheapest rental, because each level you've always got this business of people moving up or moving down in the categories.
Yeah, but for that to be, I think that is true in a vacuum. But I think for that to be true, again, if you're using immigrants, you're assuming that we know what those rent prices are. You're assuming that we have visibility into that. I mean, if you think about it, most of these would probably be under the radar. They're not going to be disclosing how much they receive in rent. It's all going to be cash. You're not going to see it.
No, I'm talking about if you've got 2 million people that come in, that would be, let's call it divide by 5, 400,000 households that come into the United States. They need to rent something somewhere. They may be paying in cash or whatever, but they got to live someplace. Mm-hmm. So they're causing somebody to, more people to build buildings, to add rental units in whatever way they can, because they're seeing this demand. Now, all of a sudden that demand stops. It stops on a dime. And not only does it stop, but it reverses. So now you have fewer people looking for that entry-level apartment building. Well, if the entry-level apartment building is now got no demand at all, you've got to lower those prices. And if you lower those prices, then it trickles. It just the whole domino effect.
Nah, I'm not saying that doesn't have a effect. I would bet money that the reason you're seeing more lower income housing being built or more, studio apartments, things like that, is because people can't afford all the luxury condos and apartments that are being built because that's where the money's at. All the expensive houses being built. And so now you have a softness in the market down here because there's all these people who are like, well, I can't afford that. And there's like no middle ground. And I think that's what's creating it. With these interest rates, I mean, again, with interest rates right now, you could buy for a $1 million house right now at current interest rates. If we were just to go down to 4.5%, you can buy a $1.5 million house for that.
Right.
So like that's how big of an effect it's having. So it's literally pricing people out. I saw something today where it's like the average person, I don't know if this was in a certain state or if it was the country, so forgive me, but essentially they need to be making $300,000 just to buy a house.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, you tell me how many people are making 300,000. I can tell you it's a lot less than 1%. So it's, people either have savings or have family helping them, or, they have, two-income household, or they have really good jobs. Or they're selling the house they have and they're buying another one. But I think the problem is that there's just a big gap between expensive luxury and low affordable that's kind of nice. And I think there's a huge market of people who are living in that part, right? I mean, like, if you just look at the numbers, there's so many people that the wealth divide's never been greater, right? Between what you think it's been greater?